Hello everybody, my name is Sunny Rabbit. In case you couldn't tell, I have a suspiciously large collection of the Warrior Cats audiobooks. Strange. Similar to the official artists of Warrior Cats videos, I wanted to go over a review of the audiobooks. Before hopping into talking about the narrators themselves, I wanted to do a brief review of the audiobooks as a whole. I pretty much only exclusively listened to the Warrior Cats audiobooks, and they kept me occupied for the past 6 months. Book lengths are usually around 7 or 8 hours for a standard book in the main series. 6 hours is on the low end, with River being only 6 hours and 12 minutes. Super editions are around 10 to 13 hours long on average. The longest one by far is Tallstar's Revenge, being a whopping 15 hours and 13 minutes long. I listen to them at work, so I can usually knock out around 6.5 hours of a book and then come back the next day, finish it, then start up a next one. These books are the unabridged versions. If there's a typo or a name is wrong, the narrator will say it. I'd say it's also noticeable when there's a name typo, because who is Bramble Stripe? Certainly not a warrior I know. The mic quality for every narrator is professional grade. There isn't any ambient white noise when they pause, or static when they don't talk. The worst of it is that you can hear when they take in a breath of air to read the next sentence. With the main narrator, I've been noticing it more now than in previous books, although I'm not sure where it started. I think it's louder than it was in earlier books. Our narrators can only do so many different voices for different cats. While there may have some distinct voices for the protagonist, you'll see the same voice get recycled for background characters usually. Not a big deal, but some of our narrators have more range than others. It takes a second to get used to a new voice a different narrator is using for the super editions. Some people do tend to compare the other narrators to the main one. I'm gonna try and review everyone's performance separately, since I think it's a little unfair to compare the hundreds of hours we have with McLeod Andrews to a one-off performance by someone else. The first narrator I wanted to talk about was McLeod Andrews. He's the guy, narrating almost every book in the series. The only ones where he isn't present are just a handful of super editions and what seems like it was scheduling issues. He doesn't work for a ton of other books, even Spider-Man. Incredible. McLeod has the widest range of differing voices for the characters, even having ones that you only hear when listening to certain characters like Jay Feather or Purdy. I absolutely love this guy's work. He's an extremely talented voice actor and he breathes life into these characters. He plays well with the material he's given, never having a performance where he doesn't bring his A game. In my opinion, he came out swinging with his performance as Greywing in Dawn of the Clans. He tends to cycle through female voices relatively quickly, only having a handful of them compared to the male voices. And the kit voices aren't great.
Slash stole me, but I escaped. Now I'm home. I missed you so much.
A few okay voices here and there don't really drag down the rest of the audiobooks, so don't let it discourage you from listening to them. But if you don't like Graystripe with a lisp, I don't know what to tell you.
Can't just go stomping into WindClan's camp and tell Tallstar his clan is a bunch of thieves.
Why not?
As a side note, he's going to be voicing both Smudge and Whitestorm in the fan-animated Into the Wild series, which is exciting. He's done a lot of work for Warrior Cats, though I can't seem to find any interviews of him talking about the series. That isn't to say I want to be the one to interview him, just that I'm curious about what his opinions on the series are and his process in recording the books. The next narrator is Kathleen McInerney. Also known as Veronica Taylor, she was the narrator for Squirrelflight's Hope, and had a really strong performance in it. She really nailed down the tone that the book was going for in her narration and in the character voices. Squirrelflight and Moonlight probably being my favorites of the cast. She lacks a little bit in character voice range, so her voices are a little bit harder to distinguish from each other at first. There was definitely a moment where it felt like she swapped the voice for a character or two. She also used a voice which I can roughly call Tails the Fox, because I can't quite put my finger on where else I've heard a similar voice.
Did you catch it by yourself?
She's done voice acting for Pokemon, so it's probably that. Her interpretation as Squirrelflight's voice really stuck with me. Not sure if it's possible for her and McLeod Andrews to do an Avengers team-up of the most super ultimate super edition reading of all time. That would be fun. She did a really good job with this book, and I'd like to see her back in another super edition. She also narrated some of the Omen of the Stars books, though it isn't available on Audible. You have to find it on an online library if you want to listen to her narrations of it. Her Graystripe has him being Texan for some reason.
Are you going to patch up that roof?
Strange. The narrator for Blue Star's Prophecy was Lisa Flanagan. She has a deeper voice, so her narration gives this super edition a more serious tone. She didn't seem to have an issue with the voices for the cats being similar or swapping. I think that might be Blue Star's Prophecy was a little more smaller scale, as there weren't any clan versus clan battles outside some minor scuffles with River Clan and the one Wind Clan battle. Lisa Flanagan probably has my favorite Kit and Queen voices of all the narrators. The queens are in this perfect zone of being mature and friendly. The kid voices aren't too squeaky while still being audibly young, and you're able to distinguish which one is older or younger. Outside of some of the narration being a little monotone in some areas, it was a pretty good performance overall. She did a good job with the emotional scenes of Moonflowers and Moss Kit's death.
I'll take care of you now. Snowpaw flashed her an angry glance. I don't need taking care of. I need Moonflower.
If she ended up narrating Scrollflight's Hope instead, I think she would have done an incredible job doing the voices of the sisters. The final narrator I'll talk about is Kirby Hayborn. Kirby has read 2 super editions, Bramblestar Storm and Tallstar's Revenge. Currently, I've only listened to Bramblestar Storm in the sample chapter that Audible has available for Tallstar's Revenge. Kirby is probably my least favorite narrator of the bunch. My biggest issue is that his narration is very monotone, giving it a robotic feeling. It doesn't help that the characters are pretty much the exact same way, making it hard to tell when a character is talking versus when Kirby Hayborn is just narrating. Even listening to it now after going through the other books, there's definitely something going on with his mic quality too. There's not static or anything, but some weird reverb like someone slapped a filter on it post-production that makes it sound hollow.
I suppose that's some comfort, Bramblestar whispered back. Glancing around the clearing, he realized that Wind Clan was not the only clan looking ill at ease.
I started up Tallstar's Revenge just to be sure, and the audio quality is better than Bramblestar Storm.
We should return to the Moonstone, Hawkheart murmured in Heatherstar's ear. Heatherstar shook her head. I'm not ready to leave StarClan.
Kirby Hayborn was also the first different narrator for the super editions that are required reading. If you want to understand the next arc, you're gonna have to go through Bramblestar Storm or you'll miss some important information. I can see why some might have been thrown off when they started up the audiobook and someone else's voice was speaking to them. While I don't think comparing him to MacLeod Andrews is the best criticism to bring to the table, the Bramblestar Storm audiobook is definitely the weakest entry in the series by a long shot. He can do some really good younger voices for the warriors despite this. I liked his Reed Whisker and Bramblestar voices in this book.
Oh, it's you. We thought you were rogues.
Let's see Kirby Hayborn's Gray Stripe.
Then maybe it's because the nursery is empty.
I haven't listened to the audiobook for One Star's Confession, so I don't have an opinion on Lily Ricciardi's work outside of the 5-minute prologue preview that Audible has available. She's very expressive, but there's definitely some weird inflections in the words that sounds a little strange.
All he felt now was a desperate hope that perhaps he had redeemed himself by ridding the clans of the cat who would have destroyed them all.
It's not too bad, but I'm withholding my larger opinion until I can get my hands on it and give it a listen. One thing I like about the audiobooks is the accessibility of them. I probably wouldn't have gotten back into this series if it wasn't for the audiobooks. They are a bit pricey, around $17 to $23 depending on the book, and that's only for one, and that's if you're an Audible subscriber. You can buy a whole paperback box set for about $25 to $40, which is 6 books together. Super editions by themselves are $7 or $8, while Super Edition audiobooks are going to cost you around $23. Spotify has put the books up on their website, and they're a little more expensive than Audible subscriber ones. The standard seems to be around $23.90 with some variations here and there. Midnight is $5.99. If that's an error, I don't know, but that's stupidly cheap and a good snag if you want to see what the audiobooks are like. The Super Editions are going to run you from around $25 to $30 it looks like. As a customer, you have 2 options. The first is to buy them all on Spotify and have your collection on there. The reason Audible looks so cheap in comparison is that the subscription shaves off a few dollars off the final price. Spotify technically has cheaper books since the regular price for Audible's books are $28 for the main series and almost $32 for the Super Editions if you're not already an Audible Plus member. The second option is to become a member of Audible, which gives you cheaper prices for the books than on Spotify. Being a Premium Plus member gives you a credit every month, which is a free book, but it will run you around $15 a month. The cheapest plan is $7.95, which doesn't give you a credit. Your choices come down to whether you think subscribing to Audible is going to be a deal breaker. That's all I have to say about the audiobooks for now. I would like to see a cheaper or even free options online to access these books. Having less barriers to entry would be nice, since these are the reasons I'm back into the series again. It's a bit ridiculous that Game of Thrones is 33 hours long and costs only 40 cents more than Tallstar's Revenge, which is half that length, and that's if you're not even a member. I thought it maybe have something to do with when the GOT audiobook was made, but the Fire and Blood HBO show tie-in audiobook is around 26 hours and is $27 being made in 2018. Like, I know this is a bit of a tangent, but it looks like The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers has 2 different recordings. One is from last year and the other is from 2012. The newer one is 4 hours longer and is only $3.50 more than the 2012 version. But if you scroll down, then there's another one from 2021, which is almost 20 hours long but only costs $21. If someone has either of these books or knows maybe how they decide their pricing for audiobooks, let me know. I'm curious as to why it looks like this. Also, Audible, please add an option to edit collections. My books are in the wrong order and I can't fix them. Please let me drag and drop my books into the correct order. It's driving me insane.